Like everyone else, I'm seeing AI slop everywhere. Scrolling my socials, reading blog posts, sometimes even books. Way too many times I've seen something and thought, well, this is clearly AI, and I moved on disappointed. So it might sound a bit crazy what I'm about to tell you, and many writers might hate me for saying this out loud. Some will probably decide that I don't know the first thing about literature and art and whatnot. But here it is. As a ghostwriter and editor with 20 years of experience, I can confidently state that at this point in time, nobody can actually look at a piece of text and tell you whether it was written by AI or by a human. Nobody can reliably detect AI written text, and I'm going to prove it to you in this video. Moreover, I'm going to argue that trying to spot AI in writing is very harmful for everyone, but for writers especially. And although you can change what other people are saying and thinking, you can try to shift your own perspective. And this can help you navigate this insane world we are living in right now and maybe become an even better writer, or at the very least, keep your sanity. And it's not nothing, right? Considering the state of world affairs. I've been writing basically my entire life since I was 15 or so. Non-fiction books, magazine articles, complex corporate projects, blogs. I deeply care about the craft of writing, and it's really killing me to see how this discussion around AI in writing is unfolding right now. The world is going batshit crazy. Books get pulled from shelves over allegations that they are AI slop or even AI assisted. You probably already know about Shy Girl pulled by its publisher after readers accused of being AI written, or about Commonwealth Short Story Prizes winning piece facing essentially the same allegations. These are only the most prominent cases, but writers are being accused of secretly using AI left and right. Readers are supposed to hate AI. So you can now obtain a human-authored certificate to prove you haven't actually used any AI. Of course, you get it for a fee. At the same time, some studies claim that the number of ebooks released on Amazon has tripled since ChatGPT was published, and half of them are AI generated. How do they know? They use so-called AI detectors, which are supposed to detect AI in writing. The only problem that they can't detect shit. People tested text written years before AI existed, and the detectors flagged them anyway. Scoring the US Constitution is over 90% AI generated, and flagging passages of the Bible and pages of Harry Potter as well. But even though the detectors are as sloppy as AI writing itself, we humans, especially professionals, writers, editors, well-read folks, we are capable of differentiating between AI and honest human effort. Aren't we? Actually, we aren't. Nobody is. And it's easier to prove than you think. Here is a simple thought experiment. Let's say I'm a writer and I decide for whatever reason that I want to imitate AI, maybe as a prank, maybe I'm doing it just for fun, maybe I'm conducting a social experiment. Doesn't matter. So what I do, I go online and study how AI supposedly writes. I collect all the so-called AI tells of the day. Not this, not that, just that. But here is the kicker. Listing everything in a row of 3 items, the M dashes, whatever. I gather every one of them. Then I sit down and write the emptiest, most soulless text I possibly can, and I publish it. What happens? People say, yo, that's AI slop, AI detectors flag it, except I wrote it by hand. The opposite scenario is also a real possibility that isn't that hard to imagine. Somebody can write such weak text that full of stock phrases and generic thoughts that it will look like AI generated. Every one of those AI tells at some point was written by a human. That's why they're there in AI in the first place. LLMs have been trained on human writing. Somebody wrote, here's the kicker, time and again, and now it's all over the place. But we can explore the opposite path as well when trying to be fancy and write like a good student in an MFA class. You can add so many vague and odd metaphors that it will feel like AI again. Finally, language is constantly evolving, okay? And the more people get exposed to AI writing, the more they adopt its style. They might be writing like AI, but they are writing themselves. My point being, unless you are looking over the writer's shoulder as they are working on their text, you cannot say how this text has been made, no matter how many tells you spot. And that's today. Tomorrow, AI will be even more capable. And there will be fewer obvious AI tells. What we will do then? What will all these AI headers be doing? A side note, my wife worked as a designer and illustrator for many years. And as we were discussing all this, she reminded me of a great controversy in the design world about 20 years back. When illustrators started using computers more and more and new techniques became available, some artists started to use photographs to trace or outline objects or people to help them draw, basically. And there were some purists who hated it, saying it was cheating and it wasn't real illustration and it lacked soul, and any illustrator who was doing it had to be ashamed of themselves or even banned forever from this profession and shouldn't be paid for such a hoax. Funny enough, there was even a huge debate about IP. Sometimes illustrators used copyrighted photos and got into all kinds of troubles, all kinds of trouble because of it. You have to understand that it was a very heated debate for a while until it wasn't. Because at the end of the day, nothing changed. Great illustrators made cool art tracing photos or not. Those who unfortunately lacked talent couldn't keep up. Besides, nobody could tell with all certainty if a photo was outlined when the illustrator used their own photos in the process. What mattered was the art itself. Today, probably nobody can remember that such a controversy even existed. Makes you think, doesn't it? In art, the effort doesn't matter. The art itself matters. You might ask, okay, Max, what are you trying to say here? What are the ramifications? If it's impossible to detect if a text is written by AI or a human, where does it leave us? Well, I venture to say it leaves us where we've always been, with the text itself. AI writing seems to become a second cousin, borrowing Mark Twain's term, a substitute for bad writing. When someone says this is AI slop, you are basically saying this is bad writing. The question is, why are we using substitutes when we have such a much better, much more accurate term? That's a good question. Partly, maybe we might be doing this because everyone is scared of this new technology and fixated on it, worried about losing jobs, because people might have legitimate questions about IP used in the training. But partly, maybe, just maybe, the reason is that saying your writing is shitty isn't something you might feel comfortable saying to anyone, but saying you wrote this with AI sounds less like a personal attack and more like a noble, righteous crusade. Although it isn't, and I'd argue is just as offensive. So here's what I suggest we actually do. What if next time we read something, we don't try to detect AI and assess how much AI was used in the process and to what extent was it generated, was it 50% AI, was it 10% AI? What if we don't ever run screaming AI, AI, but look at the thing itself and have a conversation about the work itself? I'd argue that just as tracing photos hasn't changed anything in the craft of illustration, the arrival of LLMs hasn't changed that much in writing, at least not as much as people think or say. At the end of the day, the text itself is the only thing that matters. People say that AI just remixes already existing writing. That's true, but that's just the definition of bad writing, which existed long before AI. Every decent writer knows that good writing comes from you, from what you witnessed, what you felt, what you noticed, in modern terms, from what isn't in the training data. Seeing and feeling the world around us and writing about it is basically a job description of any writer, even in genre fiction, which thrives on tropes. The most successful authors are those who have at least some kind of personal exposure to what they are writing about. It's probably not a great idea to write crime fiction when you haven't seen a dead body in your life, or to write fantasy if you haven't been around a horse. People say AI is generic, it's always the average, predictable. AI is very good at producing the ideal representation of the average, but again, it's just the definition of bad writing. Even in genre fiction, if all you do is deliver the convention, the average, exactly what's expected word for word, you are failing in your creative act, and you probably aren't succeeding commercially either. Because art in a broad sense is always about doing, trying something new, sometimes failing at it, sometimes succeeding. Good writing has always meant pushing at least a little past the convention. And bad writing is bad writing. Doesn't matter if it was written with AI or by a human. And if you find something bad, don't read it. At least that's what I do. I just don't read what I find weak, end of story. And we have to remember, bad and good is all relative. For some people, good writing is whatever is considered good writing by New Yorker. For some people, good writing is what makes them forget about the shitty world we live in today when they are reading it. I personally don't see the point in imposing my standards of good writing on anyone and attacking other writers, unless you are Mark Twain attacking James Fenimore Cooper, which is the thing that actually happened. You might want to check it out. One more side note. People also say that AI isn't human and writing and reading is about a human connection. It's a relationship. When you read, you are communicating with other human. machine has no mind to connect to. But this idea is a clear illusion, in my opinion, and I don't even understand why people are repeating it all the time. In fiction, the narrator is never the author, it's a construction in fiction as well, no matter how much it sounds like the person who wrote it. There are many cases where the real writer is a real jerk, and we don't want to have anything in common with them, but we still appreciate and love what they wrote or what they are writing, what they keep writing. In many cases, we know almost nothing about the author and we don't care. Books come out under pen names all the time. Even in nonfiction, even in celebrity memoirs, we accept that a huge share of them are written by someone other than them, whose name might not be even on the cover. Because again, what we connect to is the story itself. And I honestly don't get why it's okay to read a book by a celebrity ghostwritten by a professional author who appears nowhere on the cover, making it possible for said celebrity to capitalize even more on their privilege, sometimes earned, sometimes inherited. And it's totally fine, it's established and accepted by everyone, including the entire publishing industry. And when an aspiring writer uses AI to brainstorm and self-edit and improve their writing, even to a small extent, they become an evil force, and people say they should be shamed and banned and rot in hell for this. In my world, it doesn't make any sense, and it's just unfair. So I think it's worth repeating. In my view, it isn't about AI, it's about good writing and bad writing. At the end of the day, it generally doesn't matter whether a text was 100% AI, 10% AI, or written entirely by hand with a quill of a piece of parchment. The effort doesn't count. What matters is the text itself. And if it does the work for you specifically, if it tells you the facts truthfully, if it educates you, if it entertains you, if it moves you. Yes, at our current stage, it's impossible, at least today, to produce a text that would clear the bar I just described by prompting AI and generating piles of text. But AI can definitely assist creative professionals in their writing effort. And in my view, it's totally fine. Writers have always used tools, typewriters, computers, spell checkers, thesaurus, Grammarly, which is also now AI-powered. Why do you want to draw a line at an LLM? By the way, exactly this philosophy, this approach led me to build icanwrite.app, an AI-powered online markdown editor for serious writing. Since I'm not just a writer, but also a developer, and I can find my way around a code base. The app treats AI as a tool, but leaves all the decisions to the writer. It helps writers self-edit with the help of an LLM and pressure test original work. It's supposed not to replace you as a writer, but to empower you. If that's the side of this debate that seems appealing to you, give it a try. It's free to start at icanwrite.app. That's it. I know that was a bit of a rant. It's a topic that generally frustrates me because I think the whole AI detection witch hunt is aimed at the wrong target and isn't helping anyone. So let me know what you think in the comments. Maybe I'm the one missing something. If I am, tell me. I want to learn. I try to remain open-minded. But for now, as we say here in Germany, bis nächstes Mal.